Never stop reading Bible. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into an absolute masterclass in crisis management, unwavering faith, and brilliant leadership. We're looking at the biblical text of Nehemiah, specifically chapters 4, 5, and 6. So think about this for a second. What does it actually take to pull off an impossible task when outside enemies literally want you dead and your own people are turning on each other? Let's dive right into this massive challenge and see exactly how effective leadership can overcome some seriously impossible odds. Okay, first up, external threats and defense, and overcoming that initial wave of opposition. Because the second this monumental project to rebuild the city walls started, they faced fierce, immediate pushback. You had leaders like Sanballat and Tobiah who didn't just stand around mocking the builders. Once they saw those walls actually going up, they escalated things quickly, threatening a full-scale invasion. And as you can imagine, this caused a dangerous, terrifying drop in morale. Deep fear set in, and the workers' unity just began to fracture. But Nehemiah's response? It was completely brilliant. He didn't panic. Instead, he reminded the people of their God and reorganized how they worked. They quite literally built that wall, holding a construction tool in one hand and a weapon for defense in the other.
Talk about multitasking, right?
Moving on to part 2, the internal economic crisis, or what happens when the threat comes from within. Because right as they finally secured the perimeter, a devastating economic crisis exploded from the inside. The community was practically tearing itself apart. We're talking severe food shortages combined with heavy, crushing taxes. And worse yet, you had corrupt officials charging these exorbitant, high-interest loans. It got so bad that people were literally forcing their own brethren into slavery just to survive the famine. This brings us to leadership by personal example and the absolute power of integrity. Nehemiah had to tackle this internal corruption head-on, so he rebuked those corrupt leaders and kicked off a massive reform movement. Now, the reason these strict reforms were actually accepted without a massive backlash was because Nehemiah led by personal sacrifice. He prioritized the work of the Lord over his own gain. He took only what his household absolutely needed, and he flat out refused to exploit the people. He truly walked the walk. Next up, deception and personal attacks. This is where we see a major shift into psychological warfare. With the wall getting closer and closer to completion, the enemies realized that brute force just wasn't going to cut it anymore. Look at how crazy this escalation gets. First step, they try to set up fake peace talks. Nehemiah saw right through it and rejected them 4 separate times. Second, they sent an unsealed letter, unsealed so anyone could read it, just to publicly spread false rumors of a rebellion. And finally, they literally bribed a false prophet named Shemaiah to trick Nehemiah into illegally hiding in the temple. It was a total trap. Which leads us to the final chapter, victory in 52 days, the impossible achieved. Nehemiah remained completely unwavering in his focus. He saw through every single one of those deceptions and absolutely refused to be trapped or intimidated. And here is the incredible payoff. Despite those relentless external threats, an internal economic collapse, and highly targeted psychological attacks, the entire wall was miraculously rebuilt in just 52 days. 52 days. Just let that sink in. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought on crisis and leadership to carry with you. What walls are you being called to rebuild today? And when that pushback comes, how will you face your own opposition? Thank you so much for joining me today. This explainer was presented by the Center Studio. Keep building, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next one.